Hello. A very sleepy Frida Reba Darcy and Patricia O'Connor. It is Saturday morning. It's kind of crisp still, a little cool out. Probably about 10 o'clock, a little airish. I have yet to water. And things are just kind of waking up, evidently at the airport. So, a couple of things going on, a couple of nice things going on today. One, I thought I would explain this. Part of what I'm going to do to help this guy get back on track is, like I had described earlier with the overwatering and underwatering, for instance, the situation is to water it very, very thoroughly and then make sure it drains real good and replace all that with oxygen. So the Dostroma, I think I said it wrong last time. Dostromia, I think I put an I at the end, IA at the end of it or something. It's Dostroma. And healthy roots will go a long way towards fixing that. So what I do is I've got a wedge underneath it, underneath the pot of my Japanese black pine. And so I water it, and then I put this wedge underneath it, and that allows the water that has just been thoroughly given to all of the roots a chance to then just go away and get replaced by another fresh round of oxygen. And then when it comes time to water again, I take the block out from under it, and and then I water it so I can get a good thorough water. And then as soon as I've got a good thorough water and it's coming out of the bottom again, I tilt the pot and put the wedge in. Let me show you my wedge. I mean, normally a hardware store item is not like to show off, but this wedge, look at this wedge. Now, where do you think that came from? Right there, as I recall. This guy came from right there. And that's where my wedge came from. I love this little wedge. I'm definitely going to keep it for a while. That's a very expensive wedge too, by the way. I don't want to do that on camera. I'll do that back in a minute. So, also last week, no, not last week, a couple of days ago, I think I always do that. I always jump and say last week when I meant yesterday. I was going to do a video. How did that get damaged? Because I wasn't here. I was going to do a video where I was going to discuss the maintenance, or what I felt like I needed to be doing to my ponderosas, and I've done a pretty deep dive on that. And I would probably do damage if I go in there and try to cut those out. And otherwise, we do ponderosas, so the way to do ponderosas is so much different than the way you do black pines. So that was just, yeah. Now, today, during the course of the day, I've got one project. I'm going to take copper wire because I've got some hardware store grade copper wire that I want to use up. And I'm going to put a band around these two cement blocks, and I'm going to twist them together. And then I'm going to take a band from this one and go around here, because I think we're doing pretty good. We're pretty lucky, maybe, as much as the wind causes problems for some things. That is probably made for that environment. I mean, that's the environment it exists in. I need to do some more research and find out whether or not that causes it the same problems it does everything. But that as a ponderosa would favor a south-facing, that being a south-facing cliff dweller, which is what that is. And my 4-foot balcony, my 4-floor balcony is about as close to that as you'll get a rock's throw from the water here at sea level in Alameda. So that might be something that's absolutely going well. When the wind comes, I see it rock back a little bit, and it's okay to do that. Its trunk it's really, really heavy and hard and strong and sturdy, and it'll do all of those things. So the main thing is just to make sure this guy doesn't get any rocky motion that starts trying to walk it. I haven't noticed that, but so far our winds haven't been anything really. Sometimes the wind could come up at night and you're sitting there just asleep, just totally unaware that things are changing. So I have to think about that, I suppose. And also, I've been doing a lot more research on wind. I've kind of thought about wind in the wrong way a lot, I think, when it comes to bonsais, perhaps. On some things, wind is your enemy. If you've got a bunch of tulips or something and the wind comes through there and just rips those to pieces, that's not the best thing. But on the other hand, there are a lot of plants for which you want to water them and you want wind blowing over the leaves to take that water away. And by watering and taking it away, you just make them a little engine of water transference, and that's how they transfer nutrients and health, and that's how the world just basically hinges around that. While on other things, it can be a problem. It can make your roots strong, or it can blow your trees over. So I tend to think of wind as the bad thing when it's extreme. When it's a hot day and the wind's blowing, that feels so nice to me. I hadn't been really thinking that it should be a problem, but it's that cool wind that causes that same water transfer that will cause, for instance, your little pines to dry out quickly on the windy side. So it doesn't have to be cold. It doesn't have to be 40 miles an hour. And you see a lot of people have their bonsai trees in their bonsai areas, and a lot of times those areas will incorporate a fence, and those benches are usually up against the fence. So an occasional warning to look out for the wind is what you hear from the concerned. But I didn't see a lot of wind damage whenever I was trying to figure out what my first obstacles would be. But that's kind of what I've come to learn about wind. And I think our idea to go with the table and be over here. Right now, the sun is over there, and it's not reaching into this area much at all. Probably will about noon, but right now it's not. And as you can see, we're very well lit. Those guys will be just as happy right here out of the wind. And I've started to try to get things ready a little bit. I'm going to show you a trick. Oh my God. Pat, have you put those plants back in a pie tin? Haven't you had enough trouble with cooking utensils already? Well, no, not quite. What I did is in an attempt to increase my Shohin game, I have been taking in quite the amount of data, and I started visiting a site that was very, very helpful. I'm going to tell you what it is. The gentleman loves his Shohins, and his Shohin game is very strong. I want that a little higher, I think. And his Shohin game is very strong. Also, the water for the Bay of San Francisco is a rock's throw that way if I were standing at the edge of the apartment complex. And the other side of that is San Francisco, and he lives in San Francisco. So whatever issues he would have in San Francisco would probably be a lot of the same kind of issues that I might have here. So it made sense that I would go and subscribe to Bonsai Fly. Eric at Bonsai Fly doesn't know me from Adam, but I'm giving him a this is an idea I basically got from him, and there are a lot of really good benefits to it, and the main benefits to it are not why I pulled the trigger on this idea. This idea was something that I had planned to get around to for the reasons that he stated, but over my heat issues with these pots, I thought this was a good way to go. This will keep those little Shohin pots from getting super hot when they're in the direct sun. And the other benefits is that you can keep Shohin happy this way. I'm just going to touch on the basic idea, but rather than just have me steal somebody else's ideas, I would rather share somebody else's ideas and encourage you to go see what else you can pick up that goes along with this. But one thing is your Shohin will look a lot better because it's the same thing as when you've got your planters on the ground and the roots go through the hole and take off, and the plant just enjoys a little surge of health. Well, it's a little like that, and I'm sure he could tell you better. I'm sure he could tell you better than I. But the reason that I'm doing this was I wanted to get these pots and half of this pot and most of this pot and most of this pot out of the direct heat, so that I could control my watering as I need to without having to worry about those pieces of ceramic or that piece of vinyl getting super hot during the day and baking the roots. But that's not even the real advantages to doing that. As stated, the real advantages to doing that is it keeps your plant super healthy when those roots have a little escape hole. And then later you can go back and trim those out and show your plants, and that's you've been able to enjoy all that growth. So yeah, that's let's see, the wind. Excuse me. I had someone ask me about how I made my determination on the dot stroma. I ended up learning about it in a very not overly involved, but a very thorough, I'll say, really good information, good photos, good lead in, good take a deep breath and let's figure this out kind of information. And it came from Ryan over at Mirai, but I'm a member there, and I don't know that I can go dropping links on that without violating would just seem like to me it would be a user agreement violation or something. But anyway, that's turned out to be also very helpful. But when he was the cut to the chase part was whenever you see damage on a needle, halfway up a needle or 2/3 up a needle, and there's a white dot right at the area where the needle has its damage. That white dot, if you just see one of those, that might mean that one needle got bent over and kind of busted a vessel or something. But if you see that a few times on the tree, that's where a That's where a bad guy has landed last year, hatched, and is now going to town on the needles. This needs to harden off. This needs to harden off quickly. Right now it's still purple. I want to see it go more gold. I've got enough time to do it, but it is a little bit of a race. If this were just jumping around, I know, but this is my little cypress leader, and as you know, I chopped it here about mid-August, and this has been really, really quick come to, but we're in a race. In about, I would say probably about November, it will possibly go dormant, and anything that's not got its winter protection going by then, it's not old enough to be cold hardy, bye-bye. But I think we're more than ahead of the game there. This is probably almost there, and we've got at least a month. I mean, it doesn't just day one November and it turns cold here. It hardly does that at all sometimes. In December, where'd all that fuzz come from? How does my tree get fuzz on it? So that's covered. That's got those guys covered. That's got those guys covered. We're going to continue our ramification on here. I like what's happening there. I like what's happening on these limbs. This winter, when this does slow down, I will cut that off to probably there so I can make use of that fork, and I'll cut that off to there so that they're not totally uniform, and then put some wire and some motion in that. And when this gets a little older and this gets a little older, I'll put some motion in that and that. Meanwhile, I pulled that down, and I probably need to do it again, and I'm allowing that to go. That might be a part of the band when it comes. I haven't decided. I kind of like it. I kind of like the idea of another little guy hanging out, coming along behind. I don't think that hurts the look of this one bit. So, in fact, I would go so far as to say I'm excited about it. These buttresses, I hear people talking about these buttresses a lot. And I also heard people going into discussion about the flat tops. Say you're holding a piece of a 15 feet long PVC plastic pipe, and you got one end just kind of resting there on the ground, and you're holding it beside you, and the other end is going up 15 feet. That will start to lay over because it won't support its own weight. Sometimes shoots, like say this, on a bigger tree, would go up in the course of a summer for 15 or 20 feet. And the top 8 feet of it would start to lay over because it's too flexible to stay rigid for that tall up. And that 8 feet that lays over will harden off like that. And in some instances, that becomes the flat top. In other instances, and the same with the buttressing, people talk about the buttressing and they go, well, no, maybe it's the land eroding away from the base. No, it's not the land eroding away from the base. That didn't happen. Storms. It's not just the current. Think about a storm grabbing the top of this tree and yanking back on it because of where they live. These guys have hurricanes and tornado alley. So what they will do is the tops of them will twist and tear off because their butts are wide and planted. You'll see that in pines in tornado alley as well. A long, tall pine and the top of it will be torn out. Sometimes you would see people wake up and find portions of tree sticking down from their ceiling, like 3-foot sections of log and stuff, where that had snapped off the tree next to their house. But anyway, when a tree loses its top like that because of wind damage, it breaks away to keep from ripping the tree up. Better to lose a limb than lose the ship, so to speak. So what you then get is a bunch of shoots that go up, and they're trying to compete for one another. And then, like the PVC pipe plastic floppy scenario I just gave, maybe you've got more than one shoot that are going straight way up in the air, and they go up so high and they kind of flop over, and you've got that flat top look. And then others just lose their tops, and the shoots come out straight at the top, unencumbered. They grab up all the light, they get heavy, they get big, they get thick, and they become the top of the tree. And at that point, taper was 3 feet thick at the top. So those are just some of the ways that that nature and nurture work together to make that flat top bald cypress style. The more I think of these guys being together in a container, the more I see them in a traditional and a Japanese formal upright. Weigert's bonsai has one like that. It has a very wide base, like my middle guy, but it also just makes an almost perfect triangle. Very impressive. And since a lot of people are doing the flat top, which I like, I could see 3 flat tops next to one another, and one of them being a twin trunk, and I could see that very well. But I think this is going to be cool. I also think that a very shallow rectangle pot, and because these guys shed their leaves, I would maybe be looking at a green. Maybe if I could get a glaze that has some kind of like dark spots on it, like kind of reminiscent of lily pads or something. Wouldn't that be pretty? Or maybe one shade of green with little green specks all over it, like alligator grass grows on a bayou, would also be pretty. And I'm not talking about camo. I'm thinking like beautiful things that lay on top of the water. And that would be an idea for about 5 years from now when it comes out of that training pot. Right now, I'm just imagining those roots and what they're doing and all that thick akadama. On top here, you can see that it's probably a third akadama, a third pumice, a third lava. That's dressing. Just below the top, it is a tub of akadama. And I thought it looks better that way, but that wasn't the real reason. I'll fess up. I got right about here, and I didn't have enough akadama. So I ran to my basket where I usually have about 2 bags of Boone's Farm. And I put that over the top, and I went, I like that look really good. We're just going to say we did it like that on purpose and see who calls us on it. Damn my mouth. So that's what's going on there. It is a most gorgeous day, and I hope everybody out there is able to enjoy such a day for themselves as well. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're doing great. We're going to be doing this for a while, and thank you so much for watching.